Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cloud Talk Live. All right, everybody. My name is, there we go. I'm pushing all the wrong buttons. Nice. Be quiet. All right, everybody, welcome. So glad that you are here. My name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology. Having more fun listening to the music than figuring out what the right buttons are to push. But hey, here we are, and we're live again. It's Tuesday. It's raining in San Antonio, and we are so excited about that, as annoying as the rain might be. It's been way too many months since we've had it. So welcome to Cloud Talk Live, everyone. We've got a great show ahead for you. If you'd love to get a hold of us, I'd love for you to reach out. You can do that via email at solve@rackspace.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Of course, we're there because, well, we're there. And I'd love for you to also introduce yourself. That little note went by while I was playing with the faders and the music, but introduce yourselves in the comments. Who are you? Where are you? You guys are kind of quiet so far today. Want to make sure that you're out there. So go ahead and leave me a little comment and tell me who you are. Would love to know who's paying attention to us today. Guys, we've got a host of people here today. Hey, Michael is here from New Hampshire, the U.S. leading with it. Mohit is here. Glad that you are here. Guys, if you watch this program any amount of time, you know that, hey, Poland is back. I love it when Poland shows up. You know that the folks who show up here tend to be a bit in my age bracket. We're not going to talk about what age bracket that is either. By the way, I actually don't care. I'm 50-something years old. Chile's here. But I've got the whole episode here today is focused on that next generation of technologists coming into the business. And so I've got three amazing professionals here today who are going to join in. Colombia is here. We've got India here. A couple of folks from India. Isn't Akash is back? That's great. Kaitan is here from San Antonio. You're staying dry, I hope, today. And more from San Antonio. Mr. Covington is here. Fantastic. All right. Well, let's press on here, because the sooner I push through these buttons, the sooner we get these guests up here. Guys, this is episode 117. If you want to, are going to go through all sorts of information today. So we've got our guests that are going to be here. You want to learn about them? Going to be in rackspace.com/solve/117. Also, any of the news articles, any of the announcements from the cloud providers, you'll find all of that in rackspace.com/solve/117. Hey, Morocco's here. Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. First timer for Morocco. I don't know if we've had them before. Hey, Tom Hooper, glad you're here. Also, this audio will be available in the podcast stream, the Cloud Talk podcast stream. So, hey, we got an SDR from Florida. Hey, we are good. We got another SDR here today too. So you'll not only get the audio from these events over in the podcast stream, but also discrete content that you won't get over here. So Rick Gruenhagen, he's a CTO over at a company called Innovize. They went through an amazing transformation out of a client server and desktop application out into a fully cloud native. So it's a great episode, but you've got to go subscribe. Go subscribe, folks, to Cloud Talk. You'll make my day. Yes, we did hit 117. That is right. Hey, we are still in the mode of Shields Up. If you aren't familiar with what Shields Up is, you go over to cisa.gov/shields-up and learn about it. But it's broken down into four primary areas. How do you reduce the likelihood of cyber intrusion, damaging cyber intrusion? How do you take steps to quickly detect potential intrusion? How do you ensure that your organization is prepared for when one occurs? Guys, it just is going to happen. And then how do you maximize your organization resiliency to recover? So I highly encourage you to go take a look at some of the resources that are over there. All right, enough of me bantering about. I've got three incredible guests who are going to join up here today. Look, I'm getting covered up by stuff. And very good. So so we got Lauren who's here, we've got Jonathan who's here, and then Matthew. So let's get them off of the screen and get them onto the screen, because I'm so excited that they're here. So Lauren's here first. Here comes everyone else. We got Jonathan and Matthew. Team, welcome to Cloud Talk Live. Your first time to go live on the program here, so welcome.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, let's we'll go clockwise around the dial here for me. And so it starts with Jonathan. We're going to start with introductions. Jonathan, tell us what you do, what's your career, and what are you doing for us here at Rackspace?
Absolutely. And before I do so, let me just give a little shout out to Kate in San Antonio. I know today is your 1 year at Rackspace, so a little virtual applause to you, sir. So yes, Jonathan Santiago here. I've been at Rackspace now 4 years. I've gotten a little bit of the best of both worlds from the sales and marketing side. I started as an intern back in 2018 and came on over to the sales side of the house. Got pretty good at that as an SDR, so Lauren's role. Then I managed that team for about a year. And now I help, events come to life on the field marketing side of the house.
Nice. And you're doing a great job marketing and selling the role too, because it sounds pretty exciting. So events coming to life. So I get to participate in a lot of the events you run, and you and your team are doing an amazing job. So you mentioned being an SDR. Lauren is an SDR. Lauren, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your role?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. My name's Lauren. I am a 5-month racker, so actually almost to the day today,
Wow.
5 months. So yeah, it's been an awesome experience so far. It's amazing meeting everyone like Jonathan. We've got to network a bit. He's been awesome. But yeah, I graduated from St. Mary's in 2020 and then went over to Enterprise for a bit and then wanted something new. And so I found Rackspace.
Fantastic. So glad that you're here. It's amazing the amount of folks that come to this technology company who don't necessarily have a technology background. Was it intimidating a little bit, Lauren, or was it like, I got this? My dad's in IT. I can do this thing.
A little bit. It was definitely different. I got my degree in management, so I wasn't really sure how that would look here, but I mean, I fit in great so far.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Matthew. Matthew Contreras, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for us here at Rockspace?
Yeah, of course, Jeff. So I'm a going on 4-year racker. So I'm another intern turned success story, right? So started off as an intern almost about 4 years ago. I kind of worked my way up the ranks where I am now. The whole time being on the GRC team, governance, risk, and compliance, primarily on the compliance end, leading our PCI, high trust, and SOC assessments for the company. So it also features a customer-facing side, so a bit of everywhere in the world, and also on the cybersecurity front, working with all the different teams internally.
That's fantastic. So I'm so glad we have people like you who are doing that work, because that is not a job that I am well suited for, and I'm glad there are people who are well suited for that job. And so it's really interesting. So I'm hearing a common theme here. Starting as an intern. You're a couple of you here starting as interns. In fact, producer Daniel started as an intern, recently got himself his full time job. Megan Frett started as an intern, got her full time job, and it's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door and to really get to an understanding of who we are here. Now, the guys who started as interns, you're coming to us directly probably out of school. But Lauren, you were over at Enterprise for a little while. What are you noticing that's different in coming into this IT shop that is Rackspace, maybe from your previous role? Not looking for mud, but what are some of the differences in a non-IT world to an IT world?
I would say definitely the culture, very innovative here. The people are always challenging each other, trying to make each other better. But yeah, I would say probably the biggest thing was the culture.
Nice. And if you guys are watching on LinkedIn, probably that's where the majority of folks are. You're seeing the threads and the comments coming in here. There are so many of these guys, team members and coworkers that are piping up in the comment thread, which is fantastic because it really is a testimony to the teams and as you call out, the culture here, Lauren. Now, maybe we'll go over to Jonathan. So, Jonathan, when we were thinking about coming over, you came as again an intern. Where were you before coming over to Rackspace?
So I was in undergrad at UTSA. So being a native San Antonio, you kind of hear about Rackspace. San Antonio is a great city. There's a lot of great companies. There's a lot of great schools here. But Rackspace, it sticks out as that company you kind of want to work for. And there's several reasons why. One, it's tech, it's innovative. But to Lauren's point, the culture here, you feel like you're part of a family. You work hard, play hard. And not only are you kind of, changing the world with technology, but we do so much with our kind of Racker resource groups. We get involved in the community. We have a presence at a lot of events. So things of that sort, I would say.
Yeah. Well, you talk about getting involved in events and the resource groups we've got here, but also from a volunteer perspective. One of the team members, excuse me, Megan, was talking about coming into the office tomorrow, and had some information about that. But we have volunteer hours that you were encouraged to use every single year. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, working for a company like Rackspace Technology, you're given allotted hours to kind of take time off. And it's encouraged that, hey, you go with some of your coworkers and you volunteer in the community, whether it's your favorite charity, a Meals on Wheels, just giving back and helping one San Antonio grow, but also, that feeling of, hey, we're making a difference out there from a work standpoint, but also, the community standpoint of everybody feels involved and just making a difference that way. So
Yeah, I mean, Rackspace has a long history of being involved in the community. We realize that as this organization, would rise up and do amazing things, that it should bring the community along with it. One of the ladies who helped to spearhead and run that organization from a Rack Gives Back. That's the organization that we have here, a completely employee funded system. It was Kara Nichols, and she recently wrote a book. We'll put it in the /117 website, and it's called Building Culture with Purpose, I think was the title. But it's an amazing book. We'll get the link to it over there. And she was on the program. She was on the podcast, so we should encourage you guys to go check that out. But Lauren, you grew up in San Antonio. I know that because years and years ago, decades ago, literally, I worked with your father over at another organization, and it's making the gray hairs feel real gray this morning, knowing that his daughter is now working with me here at Rackspace and on the program. So I'm so glad that you are here. But when you're growing up in San Antonio and you hear the name Rackspace, what were some of the things that came to mind, as you think back to those years?
So actually, funny enough, in college, so when I went to St. Mary's, one of my professors, the class I was taking was, I don't remember exactly, but something about the culture of a business and how it can change attitudes and productivity and all that. So we actually got a field trip or a tour of Rackspace. I think I was a freshman or sophomore in college, and I just fell in love with it. But in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, well, I mean, I'm not getting a degree in tech or anything related. So it might be just kind of something that I might not be able to attain, but it was always a dream I had. So after leaving Enterprise, that was the first place I went to. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I could get into Rackspace? And lo and behold, I did.
You are.
But yeah, living in San Antonio, you always do hear kind of like what Jonathan was saying, that Rackspace is the company to work for, and it's just such an amazing culture. So I'm super, super happy to be here.
We're glad that you are here, and your dad's here encouraging you and saying nice things. So that's always fun to have. So Matthew, let's talk about your journey into Rackspace. How did you kind of get here? You mentioned coming in as an intern, but let's get back before the intern days, and how did you go about going from that school time to finding a place to go hang out, and then getting stuck. I mean, choosing to stay here at Rackspace.
Right. So I went to high school at Communications Arts High School, and there they placed a lot of focus on building out your career early. So my senior year of high school was actually when I decided that I wanted to go into cybersecurity. And then that's where I found a mentor right off the bat who worked at Lackland Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. And then from there, he kind of started showing me the ways of cybersecurity. There's a lot of different fields you could branch out into. And then from there, always through word of mouth, and then also through Antonio, Rackspace always came up. And then that's kind of how I discovered it. I was only halfway through my undergrad degree at Texas A&M San Antonio. And that's when I applied to Rackspace, got the internship. And then from there, I kind of just learned and worked my way up the chain.
That's fantastic. I love this, the fact that you really had some pretty clear ideas about what you wanted to do very early on and set it into motion, even as a high school senior. And I think it's great advice to either, any kids who are watching, not a lot of kids, again, parents are going to take this home, or again, parents who are helping their kids make some decisions. And the reality is that a lot of folks, you're very unusual in this context. Somebody who at that age knew what you wanted to do and then went out and absolutely did it and is having a great time doing it. You got to try on a few careers a lot of times. My first career wasn't in tech. I used tech as part of the career, but I wasn't until I was about 27, 28, 29 until I had shifted over into full-time into tech. But the reality is that the skills that I used in that previous career, the skills that you used as a high school senior in seeking out mentors and figuring out what some of those next incremental steps are, it's those baby steps. Remember the movie What About Bob? Baby Steps to the Window. It's all about what is that next one step that you can take towards that next point in your career. So Lauren, as an SDR, so many, in fact, huge leaders inside of Rackspace come in as SDRs. And as you now have had all of 5 months to get your feet wet with Rackspace, what else interests you around this tech company that you think a next step might be interesting?
Yeah, so I think next I would probably want to leverage my whole management background, maybe move up to a team lead or something of that sort. I'm honestly just trying to meet as many people as I can, get as many trainings and certifications under my belt to kind of see what those next steps look like for me.
That's a great choice, a great idea. The network is super important. If you're not familiar with, I'm trying to reference a thing and I've forgotten the thing, but I'm going to go look it up real quick. But building your network is the most important thing. Whether you're inside of a company, whether it's outside, usually you want to do both, but establish those points. And especially at a company with a culture like Rackspace's, there really isn't anyone who's going to say that you're going to approach and say, I don't have time for you. In fact, I can almost guarantee you that you will never hear. In fact, I'll bet you a lunch you will never hear that at Rackspace. Somebody will always take time, regardless of how far up the food chain they might be. And so regardless of the company that you're in or where you are in that food chain, find that next step, find that next person you want to go talk to and just understand who they are. You build out connections. So, and that's a huge thing. All right. So yeah, we've got David's comment there. So back in 2006, between 2006 and 2008, I worked for a company called World Savings and worked with a guy named David Martinez. And of course, David is Lauren's dad, and he's here to encourage, which is fantastic. So David, thank you so much for remembering me and popping on to encourage your daughter here today. So Matthew, so you're working now inside of security compliance. You're helping us with all the PCI fun. Where do you see those next steps in your career?
Yes, really, I want to make sure that I continue my education and my learning, right? Getting additional certifications to broaden my knowledge. I just graduated not too long ago, working through most of my degree, right? But I think my next step here is really in management. So that's kind of my next level here. I'll kind of work my way up the ranks to the level 4 where I'm at now. So really next step is really to go on to the lead and manager roles.
Fantastic. You mentioned certification. So in your role from a security point of view, you've sort of, I think, reached a point where the 4-year, correct me if I'm wrong, 4-year or those types of degrees tend to not necessarily have a larger impact in the future of your career, but it's more specific technical certifications. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, having the 4-year degree is definitely something to check the box when you're interviewing. But I do think that the most important thing is experience. And a good way to display that experience is to have those certifications to back up your explanation. But really, I think experience is more important than anything. So I would say, being an intern is a great opportunity for you to get that experience, even if you work your way through school. That way, when you get your degree, you're in the better point. You have 1 or 2 years under your belt of the career field that you're going into.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, Jonathan, I've left you quiet over there for a few minutes. So let's pull you back up onto stage or the center stage. And you mentioned being part of field marketing. You and I know what that means. Unpack that for just a second so the rest of the world understands that this is a pretty amazing role.
Absolutely. So all webinars, trade shows, events, both virtually and in person, I kind of help make come to life. There's a lot of moving parts here at Rackspace. we truly do end-to-end IT. So I help different parts of the business kind of reach their goals by doing so. And, I get to work with a lot of different people, Jeff included, get to listen in on a lot of awesome speakers, learn a lot about different products and solutions we have, and, kind of help customers kind of meet them in their journey, so to speak, and make those events, happen.
Hey, so what was the first thing you did when you came to Rackspace? You mentioned coming in also in your role, but what was the first job you had here?
So first job I had officially was SDR, like Lauren.
SDR. Everyone starts as an SDR. I mean, like probably 50% of the company starts as an SDR, and it's really encouraging. So what's next for you as you think about, what are some of your goals here?
Absolutely. So for me personally, I'd love to go back into the management route. I did so over on the sales side. I'd love to do so over on the marketing side. I help a few folks here run our sales internship program. So I just love giving back to the next generation. For me, I think back to when I was that, quiet intern back in 2018. And over time, I've grown, grow and glow. I just want to help the next generation do so and be a mentor to some if I can, but just help grow the business and grow the next generation.
Well, you've got a fan in Gert who's calling out the fact that you were SDR of the year for a couple of years running back to back. So congratulations for that. All right, everybody get ready for one last question. And here's that question. Advice to the person who is that 3 or 4, maybe clicks behind you and wants to maybe be where you are. What advice do you have for them? We'll start with you, Jonathan, since you got the stage.
Absolutely. So get a mentor. A mentor can be someone who's older. It can be someone around the same age as you. You can have more than one. Surround yourself with the people that have the same interest as you. Say you want to go in the security route, connect with people there, set up one-on-ones. That network is super important. Empower yourself. A great leader empowers others. So take the knowledge you have and pass it on, pay it forward.
That's such great advice. All right, Matthew, you're up next.
Yeah, so I would say my advice directly to the cybersecurity area is, if you want to get into this field, don't be afraid to kind of jump in head first. It's a very umbrella term, right? So there's a lot of different career fields you could go within this field. So even if you're not, let's say, super technical person, or you feel like you're scared of the technical aspect, there's plenty of different fields within cybersecurity that are a bit more accessible to you. So just don't be afraid to work in cybersecurity just because of the technical aspect. That's one thing I'll really point out.
It's so true. And I've heard a lot of security professionals even say, we're just looking for curious people who like to ask questions, people who like to poke around and see what's going on. And my opinion is, if there's ever one career in the world, I mean, of all careers, the one that has the most longevity right now and the most security is security.
Right.
Because there's a lot of bad guys doing bad things. All right, Lauren, over to you. What's your advice for that person who's a click or two behind you?
I would say my biggest thing is never get complacent, never get comfortable, whether it's growing your network, growing the skills that you have, your training, certifications, anything like that. Just take advantage of downtime and just always strive to make yourself better.
Learn something new every day. I love it. Thank you so much. Well, team, thank you for being Rackers. Thank you for volunteering your best for us here every day. Thanks for telling your story. It's these individual stories that I think are so impactful to the rest of the world, whether it's people, we got somebody mentioning they're a little late to the game and figuring out getting into cybersecurity. But everybody can learn something from everyone. And so thank you for sharing your experiences here today. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, folks, let's move on with the program while Daniel tucks these great individuals backstage. If you want to go and find out any more information about these folks or anything else that we're sharing here today, you can go over to rackspace.com/solve/117. You can rewatch this on whatever platform you're on now, or maybe you just want to subscribe to the podcast. You can do that. Subscribe to Cloud Talk anywhere that podcasts are found. All right, where did my little button go? There it is. Cool. All right, let's move on with the program, folks. That is our cloud discussion. What an amazing group of individuals. Guys, go friend them on LinkedIn. Go build your network with them. pepper them with questions. They've got some answers that may be helpful for you. All right, so with that, let's move on to This Week in the Cloud. And that is where we talk about those elements that are going on in cloud in the news and why it's important to you. Now, it starts with some news that impacts Microsoft. Now, ISG, analyst firm ISG, has come out with some interesting stats around Microsoft and talks about how U.S. firms use Microsoft cloud tools to compete for that, well, workers, the folks that I was just saw on there. So it's interesting how they're using, and this report goes on to detail all the different ways that partners are helping enable this suite of tools, which used to just be communication and collaboration, but now it's so much more around connecting individuals in the organization and helping make that online experience so much better, especially as we all go back into offices. In some cases not. The Microsoft tool suite, as called out in this report, is really helping to connect individuals who might normally have trouble connecting just because we're also distributed these days. Also in the news is some news from Google, and so they're talking about how their network, of course, you know that Google owns YouTube, and they're making that network that makes YouTube run making it available for other customers to build the next Netflix, to build the next, Amazon wouldn't be Amazon Video, but the next streaming service. So that's actually a service that you can actually go out and use. So go check that out. Pretty cool stuff. All right. Now, also, let's click that button right there and move on. That takes us into what's new from the cloud providers themselves, the cloud releases. And as always, we're going to start with Amazon. Now, Amazon has launched a new wizard guided to help the development of the IIS, which is Microsoft's web server, in its deployment into their environment. Now, if you look at trends and what companies are doing, you find certain key things, that behaviors, if you will, across all of the different clouds. Now, Amazon, their goal kind of is to make you use everything Amazon, even if there's other tool sets that you might want to use, like Microsoft IIS and Internet Information Server. Best way to do that would be through their wizards on their platform. You find Azure and Google tend to be a little more multi-cloud focused, but good on for Amazon to make it easier to use IIS inside of their environment. Now, over at Azure, they have in public preview an app service configuration. You can configure networking in the Azure Portal during your app creation. So usually that's a separate activity that you've got to get your whole networking environment. If you're not familiar with it, there's the internal private networks, there's public networks, and how we use that again. And so they're making it easier to do that in the app creation itself. All right, so lastly, over at our good friends at Google Cloud, you can now allocate up to 32 gigabytes of memory and up to 8 CPUs in your Cloud Run services. Now, Cloud Run is their containerized environment and how they manage all of that as a service over there, and they've expanded the capabilities for your larger workloads, obviously needing more memory and more processors. So excellent addition to the family over at Google. All right, so that's all the news from the cloud releases. You can find all those links over at rackspace.com/solve/117. You know what else you can find over at 117 is the job of the day here at Rackspace. As you know, this is a thought leadership program. We're not selling anything, but the fact that Rackspace is a great place to work. Hopefully you figured that out by talking today with our conversation with Lauren and Michael and Jonathan. But our job today that I want to call out is a professional services Scrum Master. Now, we have two different primary services here, professional and managed services. Professional services, these contract transformative workloads. Well, our Scrum Masters are the ones who help keep those projects on the road. So go check those out. We're looking for professional services project manager, Scrum Master to lead and coordinate and monitor professional services projects from initiation through the delivery for complex client engagements. So if you're a project manager, you got some Scrum capabilities, have I got a job for you. Get to work with great folks like Lauren and Michael and Matthew and Jonathan, and myself. So if you want to go and learn more about this job, maybe even apply for it, just head over to rackspace.com/solve/117, where you can also listen to the audio from this program And also, if you subscribe to the podcast, well, you'll hear the episodes like those with Rick Grunhagen, or one that's coming up on IoT, which is super interesting. All right, as always, folks, if I'd love to say a big thank you out to our good friends over at App Dynamics. If you are moving to the cloud, if you create software, you have to look into the services available from App Dynamics. App Dynamics takes monitoring to a whole new level. In fact, you shouldn't even use the term monitoring. It really is observability, from all the way from the clients all the way to the back end and all steps in between. An amazing set of services and capabilities. We've done some episodes with folks from App Dynamics. Not only a great tool set, but great people over there at App Dynamics. You're going to want to partner with them. So go check them out at appdynamics.com. They are a Cisco company. Well, everyone, takes us to the end of our little program. I didn't mean to disappear like that. Let me jump back in and tell you thank you for being a part of the program today and listening in. I really am glad to have had you here. We are back on Thursday with another great episode. Next week, I think I'm going to actually be on the road on our Tuesday episode, but we'll still do the program. Might not be as fancy, but we'll still do the program. So I hope to see you on Thursday. Come check out that episode. And in the meantime, have an amazing week. I am Jeff DeVerter for Rackspace and Cloud Talk Live.